The Enneagram 9 has a lot of negative stereotypes: indecisiveness, pliability, laziness, and as gloomy and unflattering as this characterization is, I kind of get it. When I'm explaining the Enneagram to people in passing, I usually don't have time to get into the nitty or even the gritty for that matter of a certain type, so the simplest explanations often prevail. When I describe the 9 as that friend who doesn't really advocate for themselves and doesn't have a great sense of personal identity, everybody goes, "Oh, yep, I know them," or "haha, I think that's me." It paints a very clear picture, but perhaps more than any other type, the 9 is debased and misrepresented by its abstract. Fortunately, this is a YouTube video, unbound by linear time and beholden to my whim, so I do believe I will be exploring the nitty, most certainly the gritty, and if fate should have it more, as I break down the Enneagram 9 fixation and its splendid storytelling implications. For those of you who were born under a f***ing rock, every single human being on this planet has bullshit. Big surprise, I know. But one day, John Enneagram said, "What if we identified the different types of bullshit and assigned numbers to them?" And that's how the Enneagram was born. 9 primary types of bullshit were identified. While you do have all 9 types of bullshit inside of you, as you matured into the person you are now, one type of bullshit inevitably rose above the others and took over as commander-in-chief of your brain. The type of bullshit that took over your brain is thought to have something to do with your childhood experiences, specifically the ways in which you learned to get your needs met. If you were raised in an environment where love was conditional on success, you might have grown up to be obsessed with succeeding, because your subconscious mind realized, okay, I have to succeed or I'll die, and your conscious mind was like, bet ski, my dude, and now you're missing your daughter's dance recital because Jeff from management called and that promotion is more important than life itself. But 9s are tough to do this exercise with because their compulsion is passivity. Their whole issue is not being able to do anything. At least that's what it looks like. But when it comes to 9s, I'm going to invite you to see their issue not as not being strong enough, but as being too strong, in a sense, too durable. The body stores so much information, but it doesn't really have the vocabulary to communicate that information. So all we get is a gut impulse. And gut types primarily view the world through the lens of those gut impulses. Those gut impulses steer the ship for them a lot of the time. And while the 8 and the 1 have impulses to control and subjugate the situation, the 9's gut has a different response. The 9 simply hardens to tolerate the punishment over and over again. The 9 complex is what it means to have thick skin, a person who grew up in a pit of deficiency and basically learned, there's no ladder up out of this, I just have to get used to it. But then when you actually do lower a ladder down, the 9 can't see it. They've convinced themselves that it doesn't exist, that there's no way up for little old me. But it's okay, I'm fine down here. And so the quintessential 9 story is about a person taking initiative and climbing out of the pit. It's about a person standing up for themselves and going after what they want. Now, this has nothing to do with overcoming fear, and it's not really about self-esteem or self-love either. That's what the 3s get wrong when they try to sell to these people. The 9 arc is about finding a deep physical passion within that they buried for so long because they were convinced it wasn't useful, and now they have to rise up and fight for themselves and others. In my opinion, the most crystal clear 9 in fiction is Rocky Balboa. Rocky encapsulates my understanding of the 9 because he's not unconfident or afraid. He's a heavyweight boxer. He has a day job breaking thumbs for loan sharks. He doesn't panic. He does whatever he wants. But it's that resignation. It's that sense of, I'm a bum, it's the way it is, which has become his defense mechanism. He's been stuck in the same ditch for years because his body decided, hey, getting used to this seems like our best strategy. So Rocky just rolls with the punches, literally. But then he's presented with that ladder of opportunity, and the story is about him finding the anger and the passion and the willingness to go after something better. And he does, and it's awesome. The Western concept of motivation is, in its purest form, big 9 energy.
The glory of old Valyria will never be seen again.
Another thing, I've never met an actual 9 who did this, but a lot of 9 characters will have a one-day symbol. Like in Collateral, how Jamie Foxx has a postcard from the Bahamas on his taxi for like 13 years, and he just keeps saying, one day I'll get out of this job. It's an idealistic wish. It's a simple, delusional fantasy.
Things get heavy for me, I take 5 minutes out, and I just go there.
He doesn't have the motivation to achieve it, but then over the course of the movie, he discovers his anger and his passion, and as the credits roll, we can only assume he's setting out to make his dreams a reality. But 9s can have a different relationship with that gut anger. If they don't take the reins, it often builds up and releases in a way that's not productive. This is the ethos behind the Hulk, the passive, meek character with the rage monster inside. It's a rage angry at itself for not getting out sooner. And remember, with body types, it's all impulse in these situations. So that rage can be completely irrational, like yelling at a couple of aliens who could easily kill you because you're mad you let them push you around for so long. A 5 or a 6 might focus on damage control. Yeah, play along. These guys have the power. I have to navigate their power if I want to make it out alive. I'm going to strategize. But a gut type in dysregulation, forget about it. There are no thoughts in that brain. Impulse can be a fatal flaw for all gut types, but for 9s, it's the slow knife. 9s will often chase a state of bodily peace, even if it means addiction, sleeping, overeating. Just reach equilibrium, even if you have to destroy yourself to get there. The 9 keeps telling themselves everything is cool, everything is fine, all while they slowly rot away. But if 9s do manage to escape the pit, they're arguably the best leaders. If you aren't familiar with this decrepit gentleman, this is King Viserys Targaryen from Season 1 of Hot Penis. Viserys starts out with a manageable degree of 9-ness. A bit repressed, a bit suggestible, but he eventually deteriorates into the physical representation of his complacency. Addicted to ye old lean and fully apathetic to his own manipulation, it looks as if the king is cooked. But when his family needs him the most, he finally stops pacifying himself and he finds the strength to fight for them. His natural gravitational pull is still towards peace and equilibrium. He just pursues it actively now. And through his egoless strength, he almost prevents a big horrible dragon war. Almost. If 9s do have an ego, it normally takes the form of, I'm the chillest, nobody's as chill as me, stop caring about things, you loser, just be chill like I am. Because while they stay in the pit for subconscious reasons, their conscious mind still has to make something up to justify it, and that lie needs to account for other people. So yeah, I'm the chillest, nobody's as chill as me, why don't you come down here, it's cool down here. They have this live and let live, go with the flow mentality that can seem deceptively healthy and grounded, but really it's a trauma response. A secondary consequence of 9s resigning themselves to the world is that they often lack a sense of personal identity. So when they're super unhealthy, they will just attach themselves to something or someone else and say, yep, I guess this works. Don't confuse the 9's identity problem with that of the 6s, who will latch onto an identity to triangulate their own position in the world, or the 4s, who will hyper-focus on identity for identity's sake. With 9s, it's more like, I don't know what I want, so this'll do. Some 9s will try on new identities, even quote-unquote merging with this friend or that friend or whoever. But it's not so much a conscious search for identity as it is a result of the 9 burying their true passion, which creates a vacancy in the conscious who am I slot. There's a level of catharsis in letting someone or something else fill that slot, but it's not a healthy catharsis. The last thing a 9 needs is to be told who they are or where they belong. That's the very sort of lie they need to escape. 9s need to find their own identity, which goes hand in hand with summoning that raw power from the deep. Make no mistake, 9s have that dog in them. The dog is just very sleepy, and it doesn't see the point of barking at the mailman anymore because he's just going to be back tomorrow. That's the 9. Okay, so time for a rant. In the Enneagram community, there's this tendency to assign types to fictional characters based on really nothing. So you'll see posts like, did you know the son from Teletubbies is a 9? And this way of thinking really pisses me off because it's thinking about the Enneagram in terms of holistic vibes instead of specific subconscious strategies. Listen to me very closely. If the character doesn't make any philosophical choices or demonstrate any emotional reactivity or encounter any personal problems, there's no point in typing them. If a Type 9 character isn't embedded in a Type 9 story or a Type 9 subplot or at least a Type 9 moment that pulls on those thematic threads, that character being a 9 is irrelevant. I talked about this in the last video, but this reducing the Enneagram to vibes and aesthetics is why it doesn't get taken seriously. The point of the Enneagram is not to describe people for the sake of describing people. It is to be a functional system for defining what growth means for different types of people. Enneagram fixations are big human pathologies that demand to be narrativized. In fact, sometimes Enneagram fixations will manifest more at the story level than at the character level. Paul Atreides does not fit the personality stereotype for the 9. He's barely even human to begin with. Every other page in Dune is just, Paul felt the grain of sand by his right toe. Then he felt the grain of sand next to it. Paul knew every grain of sand by name, but if you look at his story, it is absolutely 9-coded. Paul is shouldered with a destiny he doesn't want, other people have decided who he is, and he fails to break free from those expectations. Jaded and seeing no other option, Paul embraces the path before him, basically giving up his own free will and becoming the Messiah, dooming the universe to holy war. It doesn't matter if he has a stereotypical 9 personality or not. The 9-ness is built into the very DNA of the narrative. This is why I don't even like the word personality when talking about the Enneagram, because to most people, personality means quirks and vibes. It would be more accurate to say the 9 numbers are pathology types rather than personality types. Anyways, Dune is the type 9 tragedy. Stories about complacency and addiction tend to be very 9-coded as well. Rue's arc in season 1 of Euphoria is another type 9 tragedy. It sees her rising up out of her comfort and finding herself only to relapse at the end. The classic fantasy protagonist is also a 9. Every Harry Potter, every Percy Jackson, every meek-mannered teenager who turns out to be the chosen one and has to rise to the challenge. It's the new kid who finds their people and finds their identity, but at the same time, these characters often reach a moment where they have to stand up for themselves and say, no, that's not me. So in conclusion, the 9 arc looks something like this. The 9 is trapped in an identity, an addiction, an agenda, some unhealthy equilibrium. They realize it's whack. Then one of two things happens. Either they say enough is enough and they take control, or they disappear back into the fog. The end. That's it. That's the 9 video. How is everybody, by the way?